Hi, good evening, Ajahn. We'll now formally request for a Dhamma talk. Ramachaloka Ipati Sahampati Patanjalihan Iwarangaya Chata Santi Dasatha Parajaka Jatika Ese Tutama Anukampi Mampaja.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Very good. Well, you could see, I guess, from the photo, or the view from the Buddha Rupa when you were meditating, if you had your eyes open for a moment, that it's late afternoon here at Tisarana, very beautiful, very green. I've been only back here about 7 weeks now, having come from Thailand where I lived for about 9 years or so. So I'm getting used to Canadian ways again. Seem to have remembered the language well enough though. It's been lovely to be welcomed by Lumpur Dhammo, whom I've known since I was an Anagarika. And it's always wonderful to be with him and this community that's formed around Lumpur at Tisarana here is very supportive, and it's a great benefit for me to be here with him now. We're supported on a daily basis by all kinds of good folk, mostly from Ottawa, but some come from other nearby towns near to here at Tisarana. And I was born in British Columbia, which is on the other side of the continent, basically, and so I'm not that well versed with all of the Ontario small towns. So anyway, I know they come from this area. The other night for our Uposatha, our full moon gathering, after meditation, we listened to a talk given by Ajahn Pavaro. It's a very lovely talk he gave probably in the last few years at Amaravati, where he is the abbot. And he was speaking about having spent a year in India, northern India, as on a sabbatical year when he was still at that time a co-abbot at Abhayagiri in Northern California. And just speaking about the images and the sources of reflection and benefit and inspiration that he received in that year in sabbatical, practicing every day at one of the holy sites and just keeping up his due diligence. And it reminded me of my I've had the opportunity when I was in Thailand to go several times to India with my good friend and abbot Ajahn Achalo, and there is something very special about sort of touching, walking on these various sites and smelling the scents and seeing the people and kind of imbibing in the atmosphere of these holy sites. So it brought a lot of memories back, actually, and it also made me think back with a great deal of appreciation for the years that I've recently ended having spent in Thailand, and how different it is in Canada. So we practice a little differently. We look a little different. We eat different food, and the language and the animals are all a little different. And yesterday, a little snake sort of crawled over slid over my foot when I was in the grass. And if that had been in Thailand, I would have been, I would have been quite startled, but a little concerned. But here, of course, it was just a little garter snake that was completely harmless. In Thailand, you are best to assume that any snake you encounter is venomous. So I'm still getting my land legs, I guess, in a way, in this place, but enjoying it nonetheless, and finding it all very agreeable in terms of practice, and been given a lovely kuti and have a nice jonggram, a nice walking meditation path with sand on it, so it's very nice on the feet. And it is a very beautiful time of the year, so I'm looking forward to just continuing in this way. We're encouraged, as Luang Por Dhamma often remarks, we're encouraged in this tradition not to plan Dhamma talks in advance, and I've done, you can probably tell I've done a pretty good job of not planning this evening or today. So I'm just casting about for ideas, really. That's why I always look forward to questions. So it's very different being here now for me, and yet it's very similar too. One of the things that, and you, I think probably all of you on this call, I'm told there are about 140 people on the Zoom meeting right now, you're all familiar to some degree or another with Buddhist monastic culture, and so among the differences, of course, there's climate and animals and all of that, but the similarities coming to another monastery, especially a monastery in the tradition of Ajahn Chah. So we have very similar what we call Korwat, which are the procedures that govern daily life in a monastery, what time the meetings occur, when the meal occurs, and this kind of thing. So you slip into this realm of familiarity. The chanting is all the same. The monks still wear the same robes. You abide by the same rules of Vinaya. And so there's something very comfortable and familiar about it too, and deeply supportive for practice. In lay life, these parameters do differ a bit, I think. So if those of you who have moved to a different culture, different climate, different continent, I'm sure some of you have, you might remember what it's like to encounter stark differences in attitudes and the people around you and in the living conditions and so on and so forth. But what monks can more or less take for granted is also available for anyone, any practitioner, which is carrying with us something of the stability of Dhamma. So we still, whether you're a monk, a layman, a laywoman, a monk or a nun or whomever, you still have the rules of your life to guide you. The various rules of Vinaya for the monks and nuns, the 5 precepts or the 8 precepts, and whatever refinements that you make on these, you have these. And these do, insofar as we keep them, they help keep us too, don't they? You look after your precepts, and your precepts look after you. So the stability of a person's life, a human life, begins to revolve around things that matter. And in this case, it revolves around aspects of behavior, thought, speech, and of mind, which we can rely upon, which we can count upon. Keeping the precepts generates a beautiful sense of self-respect. And we know when certain precepts maybe are a little bit difficult to keep at certain times, we're aware of that, we're attentive to it, we maybe do what we need to do to talk ourselves through it, to guide ourselves through patches where it's difficult maybe to not to say nasty things or to speak a little harshly in times of stress. So we need to guide ourselves through these things, and yet we gain over a long period of time, we gain considerable self-respect, a kind of dignity comes to a human being when we become trustworthy, when we can trust ourselves in keeping these beautiful precepts. The Buddha said, in doing so, we maintain a human life. We maintain a human life in the present, and we also ensure ourselves a human rebirth, a precious human rebirth, which enables us to continue to practice Dhamma, to grow in Dhamma, and to realize Dhamma. So we owe to these precepts and to our own keeping of the precepts, we owe to these things a great deal. Our very human existence, in fact, is rested upon our stability, our ability to, through thick and thin, to keep these precepts. And where we've fallen astray from time to time, to understand the conditions, the causes and conditions that go into lapses, to forgive ourselves, to resolve to be better next time, and just to begin again. In monastic life, but in any human life, I hope, a person will encounter from time to time a very wise being, a person who maybe doesn't speak too much, but who has a stability of character and the kind of radiance, a kind of beauty which is palpable even if they aren't speaking. And to be around this kind of person is a great benefit. It also says something about our own good karma to encounter these examples. And it instills in us a sense of what is possible in human life. Where insofar as we recognize these exemplars and can resonate with them, we become, in some way, we become ennobled. We become bettered and better. We become better human beings through encountering such people. And maybe one day we will we will offer such examples from time to time to others. So in this way, the wheel of Dhamma, the wheel of virtue and morality goes round and round and is of great assistance in human life. I don't know what all of the circumstances are in the various countries that you're all living in right now regarding this corona issue. Probably you'd all agree that it's a kind of one-off. I mean, it's unique in my life. The degree to which governments have conspired to lock people up and keep people away from each other, and sometimes for good reasons and sometimes for perhaps questionable reasons. I'm not really sure. It seems every every country has responded a little bit differently to it. Obviously, there are many effects to this, and there are many effects which I'm sure will occur to us in the news and elsewhere in coming weeks and months and perhaps even years. But one thing that occurs to me, I'm watching you, I mean, some of you I know I'm looking at your rooms, some of you I'm just looking at a blank screen with a name on it. But one thing I hope, and I expect that for many of you, one thing that you found is that although these lockdowns have come and gone, I think, for many people, still it brought your home to life in a way that maybe it didn't exist before. If you had to stay at home for long periods of time. And one thing I hope it would do, one thing I hope it would encourage in everyone, and if it hasn't done so yet, maybe you can think in these terms, but to whatever degree you can, find and make a place in your home that is a kind of sacred center. For many Buddhists, this involves, a Buddha rupa and some incense and some candles, or whatever way you can make a space beautiful and inspiring, something that makes you feel good about being in. Because who knows? Maybe we'll all get you'll all get locked down for another few weeks in coming weeks. I don't really know, but it is a challenge to live in the same space all the time, to knock around the same four walls and to see the same family members again and again through the day. But something about creating sacred space right where we live creates a space which potentially refreshes us, inspires us, and reminds us of the deeper values that we hold in life. Just seeing a Buddha rupa for many people, depending on your sensibilities, I know, but just seeing a Buddha rupa for many people reminds us of our aspirations in life. It reminds us to be as good as we can. Reminds us of our precepts. It reminds us of what it is that we hold most dear in life. So to have a little space, including your meditation cushion, and as I say, whatever accoutrements that are most inspiring and uplifting for you, and which you have room for in your home. And I realize that houses are negotiated spaces if you're living with a partner, and especially if you have children and so forth. But if you haven't already done so and you haven't entered into this kind of negotiation, maybe this is also a good opportunity to express to your partner and your children why it is that such a space is actually very important to not only yourself but to the rest of your family members, your partner, and so forth. In any case, we're challenged in times like this, I think, when things are so different. We don't have the same freedoms that we normally do. People can't meet as they normally do. Here you would normally maybe go to a temple or the local monastery or meet with a group of friends and meditate together in the same place. But now you're required, because of these restrictions, to be at home, and you maybe cannot do many or any of these things at the moment. So it challenges us in a way, but this can be a creative and important challenge if it results in finding and making, creating with our own artistic and sacred sensibilities a space that we feel deeply comfortable with and at home within our home, in the center of our home, perhaps. So that's a little challenge for any of you who haven't already done so. I mean, I do know some of you. I see Victor and Elle and Joyce, and I know that you have, and there's JC there. I know Lingpo. I know you've made efforts, because I've been to some of your homes, but I can only see one page, and I don't probably know too many of the people here. But this is, I think, one of the benefits of the Buddhist tradition. I mean, we have such a huge and beautiful array of Buddha rupas and all kinds of sacred art that we can use to help just enliven the day and remind us what's important. Remember that sati, the word sati from the Sanskrit smriti, is related to the word memory. And whether we're thinking of the word sati in terms of meditation, or in terms of our life of virtue, or in terms of putting a Buddha rupa up and what it does, remember that memory itself is you might say an act of mindfulness. It calls something to mind, doesn't it? So these visual or auditory or anyway sensory reminders of what we hold most dear, what we aspire to in life, these have a deep value which is in accordance with Dhamma. So don't underestimate the value of these things. So do your best. I think I'm finished talking for now. I'm looking forward to questions. You can see I'm in a rambling mode here.
Thank you, Ajahn. To everyone present today, it is actually Ajahn Pavaro's birthday today. So let's all join in sharing the merits of this session to Ajahn Pavaro's good health and well-being. Let's all say 3 sadhus together. Han Dhammayam Ovada Dhamma Gathayo Sadhu Karang Kadhamase Sadhu 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 Anumodami. Happy birthday, Ajahn.
This is something I learned in Thailand. In Thailand, people who have birthdays, they come to the monastery and they offer food, or they want to make merit on their birthday. So actually, I appreciate the opportunity to make merit on my birthday in the great tradition of Asian Buddhism. Thank you.